Streetwise, including about some of their work with the RNCM. From the head of the RNCM Junior School, Karen Humphreys, and a current Junior School composer and pianist, Lizzy. We'll also be hearing part of a concert from last June, in which RNCM International Chair in Piano Kathryn Stott performed the piano duet version of Holst's The Planets, with different RNCM keyboard students, as well as music by Mac Frey, Anna Appleby, and Charlotte Marlowe. However, first of all, we're going to return to a concert from February this year, which was part of a festival celebrating the music of Errollyn Wallen. This is her energetic and characteristically witty song Off the Map, performed by two RNCM students, vocalist Amy Webber and pianist Misa Tishku.
The wind blows hard on the loneliest man in Vegas. A storm cloud brews on the heart of a girl in Memphis. Seems nothing too late for the man in dead, hidden in the Hudson River. He's in the Hudson River, the Scotsy old Hudson River. A rainstorm brews on the heart of a girl in Memphis. Ooh, a tremor runs through the heart of a girl in San Francisco. She's waiting for a check, he's waiting by the phone. Another 50 hearts are breaking in Tucson, Arizona. In Tucson, Arizona. I'm gonna get on a bus, I'm gonna get on a train, I'm gonna get off right here, I am. I'm gonna hitch me a ride, I'm gonna jump on a plane, I'm gonna get off this map trap. Gallipoli can stay a million miles away. Lightning strikes a house on a hill, they're sleeping. A storm comes in and washes away our living. Since nothing stays the same, you gotta be ready for the changes in the changes in the weather, the Scotsy old English weather. I'm gonna get on a bus, I'm gonna get on a train, I'm gonna get off right here, I am. I'm gonna hitch me a ride, I'm gonna jump on a plane, I'm gonna get off this map trap. Gallipoli can stay a million miles away. Gallipoli can stay. Gallipoli can stay. Gallipoli can stay a million miles away.
Over the last few weeks, we've been focusing, for the most part, on the core activity of the RNCM, our undergraduate, postgraduate and research degree programs and the performances, large and small, directly connected to these. However, there are many other areas of RNCM activity, from a wide variety of youth music projects to connections with professional and industry partners, and, as we're going to hear today, our own specialist junior music school. I was also delighted to discover that the Junior RNCM has an additional Royal Association.
Hello everybody, my name is Karen Humphreys. I am the head of Junior RNCM, or as I laughingly like to think of myself, Queen of Junior RNCM. We are the Saturday crowd. We have just over 200 highly talented and motivated young musicians, aged roughly between 8 and 18, from a huge catchment area, who descend upon the college for 33 Saturdays during term time to receive specialist training, to enjoy the amazing facilities at the RNCM, and above all else, to make music with other like-minded young people. Our aim is to train our young musicians so that they are very well equipped to go on and study music in higher education if they so wish.
So how many of these students go on to study music as undergraduates?
We find that each year, roughly 3/4 of our students opt to study music at undergraduate level, mostly at conservatoires like the RNCM, whilst the others, who opt to read different subjects at university, quite often return to music study at postgraduate level. So nothing goes to waste.
I asked Kathryn to give us a sense of a typical junior RNCM day.
Each Saturday is action-packed, and every student follows their own bespoke timetable, comprising, in broad brushstrokes, a fat morning of lessons, that is to say, individual tuition on 2 instruments, with chamber music coaching, plus either theory, arranging, composition, or compositional analysis, and also either musicianship, advanced oral training, improvisation, or conducting. Then in the afternoon, everyone gets together for the large ensembles, symphony orchestra, vocal ensemble, brass band, wind ensemble, percussion ensemble, and big band. So there's plenty for people to do.
RNCM teaching during the lockdown has had to adjust to working online very quickly. The junior RNCM is no different. However, there are added complications for a community that meet once a week and covers a diverse geographical area, age range, types of music making, and priorities.
The current lockdown situation has presented us with some interesting challenges, but also some exciting opportunities. Our instrumental and vocal tutors, who give our students one-to-one lessons, have all honed their skills in the art of online teaching, which is very different to being face-to-face in a teaching room. Our academic tutors, for want of a better word, are delivering their teaching via RNCM Moodle, and our chamber music coaches and large ensemble conductors are all engaging their students in fascinating listening tasks and research topics. Obviously, this is not the same as rehearsing and performing together, but it does give us the opportunity to delve into all sorts of things which we normally wouldn't have time to do on an action-packed Saturday. In short, we're making the very best of it. The main casualty in all this, apart from the fact that our youngsters don't get to be part of our vibrant community and see their friends each week, the main casualty is really in the area of composition. Even though I say it myself, we are very hot on composition at juniors, and our academic year builds in crescendo-like fashion to our New Music Day, which is traditionally held in May. Last year's New Music Day featured new works by 26 of our composers, all performed by junior RNCM students, and it really is one of the highlights of our year.
While we can't do anything directly about the new music concert, we can hear from a junior RNCM composer.
My name is Lizzy. I'm an 18-year-old pianist and composer from Germany. I have a background in classical music, but I'm now very much a jazz and pop pianist as well. And I've been studying at the junior RNCM for 6 years now, and at the moment I'm just coming to terms with the fact that I'm not going to have to do any A-level exams. Juniors always has so many opportunities to offer in terms of performing and composing, such as the New Music Ensemble, for example, which I've written a ton of music for in the past 6 years that I've been around, and also played keyboard in.
I asked Lizzy to mention any junior RNCM highlights other than her composition and the New Music Ensemble.
Yeah, it's really hard to say because there's literally always so much happening. I really enjoyed doing the big band concerts. So last year we did Lingus by Snarky Puppy, and I got to play part of the Corey Henry solo with my other friend, Liz Birch. So that was amazing. That was really fun. We had these synths and everything. It was awesome.
Last December, Lizzy wrote and performed a new piano concerto called That's My Opinion, premiered by the Junior RNCM New Music Ensemble conducted by Gavin Waite. I asked Lizzy to talk about this piece in order to give us some insight into her work. Although unfortunately we can't hear the ensemble version of the piece today, Lizzy has provided some extracts from the proto-piece to this, Improv Over a Number of Vines.
So in terms of making my Vines pieces, there's a lot to say. I'm a big pop culture fan and I've been a very online person since I was a little kid. The idea of the internet as a cultural and social concept has fascinated me for a long time, especially the way that it sort of just brings strangers together and how that's a good and a bad thing. That's just, yeah, it's really interesting to me. So this became the overall concept for my piano concerto. I knew it had to be about collage and about saturation and pace and speed and all of these things that emulate the internet, but also it had to do what the internet does, in my mind, which is to put young people at an advantage in terms of knowing what's going on. That was really important to me and it informed how I wanted it to sound. Compositional element which would form the basis for the whole thing would be a technique that I've basically been trying to perfect for a couple of years, which is to convert speech into melody in a way that feels instinctive and musical. So I made a connection between the way that melodic motif works in music and the way that vines become internet motifs, or in other words, catchphrases that people would recognise and spread around and adapt and make their own. So that's what I did. I took some of my favourite internet videos, known as Vines, from when I was like 13 or whatever, that went really viral at the time, and which people my age would know. And I put them into a free sampling app on my phone by recording them just straight in from YouTube, and then would play around with them until I found a natural rhythm in the way that they were said. Next was figuring out the pitches, not worrying too much about specifics, and then fitting it to harmony.
I believe friends, they disappoint me. I believe friends, they disappoint me.
So to see how this would work, I did a sort of test run with a piece called Improv over a number of vines, where I played piano and my friend triggered the electronics from my phone whenever I sort of gave her a signal. Yeah, it was pretty slapdash to begin with, but it did sort of set the tone for what the piece would feel like, especially in terms of the piano writing. When it came to orchestrating, emulating what the internet feels like was important to me. The way it works is that the piano material gets spread around the orchestra in different ways and at different speeds, depending on a set of algorithms that I worked out before even writing any music. So in some sections, the material spreads super quickly, like within half a beat or whatever, and then never shows up again. And in others, you can hear material in, say, the percussion, which was in the piano like 5 or 6 bars ago. So another example is that in one section, a lot of the material will stay broadly the same, whereas in another it will have morphed quite a lot into a sort of outline of what it was at the beginning of the section. So the orchestration was basically my platform for demonstrating the different ways in which things spread around the internet and how that affects how the internet feels when you're a part of it. As well as this, maybe a bit more generally speaking, I just wanted it to feel groovy. It was important to me that while I was taking all of these ideas to their sort of logical conclusion, that it felt inclusive and not alienating. So that's where I made the decisions, like keeping the harmony fairly jazzy, or where it isn't, keeping the gestures really bold, so that there was still something to latch onto as a listener. This is also why I kept the meters fairly consistent, so that no matter how abstract the speech-based melodies were, after hearing them 15 times in a row, you'd be like bopping to it. One of my favourite things about this actually is my mum was in the audience, and she was sat behind a row of people about my age and maybe a bit younger, and said that they were laughing whenever they heard Vines being played, because it is a funny piece. I mean, I'm talking about it as if it's a really like serious intellectual work, but it's mostly just kind of funny. So yeah, that was really nice to hear.
You've been listening to Lizzy Gurr talking about her recent piano concerto, That's My Opinion, written for the Junior RNCM New Music Ensemble, as well as extracts from the closely connected piece Improv Over a Number of Vines for piano and electronics, performed by the composer. We're now going to hear a recent track from one of the RNCM's popular music students. This is Mac Frey's song Motion. As an artist who trained as an opera singer before embarking on a diverse career of various kinds of music making under different pseudonyms, this is an artist representative of the RNCM's musical diversity. Released earlier this year, he's quoted commenting on the soul-influenced song Motion as being about our complex relationship with the world, with people, and with our passions in life. We seem to be so willing to tear it apart at times, but we're always able to fix it on the other side.
It's like a circus in motion, and everyone's rocking their brains for a moment. And here in the silence, you try to be something that takes your name out of focus. But it's like a wall at the border, and I'm like an animal caged in the corner. Believe me, I'll work till it's right, but in my mind it's making everything torture. Oh, you're making it harder to see what's been broken. So go closer. Yeah, it's just the fear in your bones that try to control. Just don't let go. How can I be that far if I'm way down? Our world is starting too high. Our world is starting too high, but I'll wait for you. I'm just a child in the ocean, and I'm feeling people controlling me, rolling me up so tight. And even the stare of the rise in my mind, it's making everything slow down. Oh, keep holding your tongue till the sun's up, 'cause it's closer. Yeah, it's just the fear in your heart. It can try if you want, just don't let up.
The RNCM has numerous relationships with different professional, industry and charitable partners. Last week I spoke with Marigold Hughes, one of the key figures in a vitally important national performing arts charity. I asked her to describe their work.
So Streetwise Opera, we're an award-winning performing arts charity for people that are or have been homeless. We run weekly singing and acting workshops in 5 regions across the UK. So that's in London, Manchester, Nottingham, Teesside, and also Newcastle and Gateshead. And in Manchester specifically, we run weekly workshops both at the Booth Centre and at Manchester Art Gallery. And we also run biennial major productions. So in those productions, which some of your students might remember, or maybe not, but graduate students, we did a massive production of The Passion in 2016. And in those kind of big productions, we aim to bring together world-class musicians and artists and individuals affected by homelessness. Aside from those massive productions and the week-to-week workshops, we also run smaller performances and collaborations across the year in each of our 5 regions.
I was interested to hear more about her involvement in Streetwise Opera and what drew her to this particular organisation.
So I'm head of programme at Streetwise. So I've been with the company for about 2.5 years. And I suppose even before I was a student, I was aware that I wanted to pursue a career in the arts and specifically, theatre at that time. But I was always a sort of, I suppose, politically minded young person and was really aware, and I'm from the North East originally, I live in London now, but I'm from the North East. And I was really aware that I didn't want to just kind of make theatre or do theatre for people that would ordinarily go to the theatre. So from quite a young age, I was keen to kind of do something in the field of like community art or theatre and music for young people. And that later became a sort of career around arts and social change. Yeah, I was really drawn to the work of Streetwise precisely because of those 2 things. I think that I was always keen to make work and be involved in work with really high production values, and also really keen to help make work that really had a very strong social impact. And I think at Streetwise that is really true. You know, I think other projects and jobs, I think they've all been really great and have all had an impact in some way. But I think the impact that we strive to have and we can prove that we have had on the lives of individuals is really striking. We have a really solid sort of monitoring and evaluation process in place. So we've got a dedicated evaluation manager, so we can really track the progress that individuals make through the time with the company, and the impact that hopefully we're having on their lives. So my role as head of programs for the company is I oversee, so as I said, we've got these workshops in all 5 regions. So I oversee the delivery and the logistics of the kind of national programme in each of those 5 regions.
So what about the specific relationship with the college?
So we really, treasure our relationship with RNCM, and we work with the college in lots of different ways. So we host volunteer student placements in our workshops. So most terms, I think we've got a student placement from RNCM, and it's a really lovely thing to have the students in the session, because I think the Streetwise performers love singing with training musicians. I think obviously the students bring all of that enthusiasm and youth and energy. And also, obviously, really great talent. So the Streetwise performers sort of love hearing that in the room. We've also done kind of more in-depth collaborations with RNCM. So some of your students will remember a project that we worked on, I think it was last June, called Protest Music. And that was part of the commemorations of the Peterloo Massacre. So our performers were involved with the performance, and we worked alongside Ignition Orchestra, led by Katie Chapman, and we performed a few new commissions by student composer Charlotte Marlowe. And it was a really special project. I think, again, the Streetwise performers really relished the chance to be performing in your main theatre. I think they absolutely love that. And I think for the students to be working on quite a close collaborative level with individuals that they might not otherwise have contact with. And I think that those collaborations, I think we love those collaborations because it really debunks the sort of myths around homelessness. And I think there's a much more human to connection, where music is the thing that brings people together.
I asked Marigold to tell us some of her Streetwise opera highlights.
And there's so many that I could share that feel really special and important. I think there was a case where I think it was even on The Passion where one of the Streetwise performers who hadn't had contact with their own family for years because of the problems that they faced, and they'd gone through street homelessness and had had a whole journey arising from that experience, and they invited one of their family members to come to the performance because it was one of the things that they'd felt most proud of in their life. And this family member came, and they had a very sort of touching reunion, and that helped to put in place the foundations for rebuilding their relationship. And I think moments like that happen quite often, where the performer's involvement with Streetwise really does rebuild their sense of self. There was another, when we did our last major production in Newcastle, the two leads of that production, after the production had finished, they actually left Streetwise Opera, which is great because it means they're going on to do something else, and they both went back into full-time education. I think transformations, however big or small, are really such a success for us. I think in some workshops it might be that a performer arrives, sits at the back, sits outside the circle for weeks and then joins the circle, and that's in a way a huge transformation and as important as any other.
Whenever I ask musicians, artists, producers and arts managers about the highlights from their work, I'm almost always given examples of the final product in a project. I was struck that Marigold's response was about the people, progress and development in Streetwise Opera.
I think when we're planning and developing work with really, sort of high profile artists, I think that's a really hard balance to keep going. And especially in the intensity of rehearsals, and I always find that, where it's of course you want to keep the creative team happy, and they're used to working with huge buildings and huge companies, and you're sort of torn between obviously wanting to be a completely professional producer for them, but also make sure that say one performer has got to their doctor's appointment on time because blah blah blah. There's so many sort of in those productions. I think that's when those sides of the coin really clash.
I've been in all kinds of situations where I'm talking to artists about how the quality of their music making has to come first, and as a composer this is a seductive viewpoint. However, I'm increasingly asking myself what I mean when I talk about musical quality. The music matters, and maybe the starting point, the glue and the most visible outcome, but it's the people and the inclusion that comes first. Let's hear from one of the current RNCM research students and their involvement with Streetwise Opera.
Hi, my name's Anna Appleby. I'm a composer doing a PhD at RNCM. I'm currently working collaboratively on an opera project with poet Niall Campbell. The opera will be premiered by the BBC Philharmonic and RNCM singers in 2022. I'm also one of 4 composers in residence at Glyndebourne Opera House. Streetwise Opera were the first organisation that I worked with professionally after finishing my Masters. I was their Manchester composer in residence from 2016 to 2017. And together with the performers who had all experienced homelessness, we created an opera chorus which was for Streetwise's 15th anniversary. After working together with the Manchester performers, I was then commissioned by Streetwise for their production Tell Me the Truth About Love, which was with the Newcastle Gateshead groups. I also featured alongside Streetwise Opera in US documentary Turning Point, which is a series that had a special episode all about Streetwise and how they've changed the lives of people who've experienced homelessness all over the UK. We talked about the Manchester Opera Chorus and about how it had not just changed their lives, but my life as well.
So how does working with Streetwise Opera affect a young composer?
I think Streetwise changed my life because it made me really believe in what I do. I think before that point, music for me was an academic pursuit and something that I always loved and had a real passion for, like any other musician. But I hadn't really seen how myself and my music could connect with other people on a more of a fundamental level. It's so far been quite a selfish and personal pursuit, I'd say, and suddenly there was this real collective, communal feel, and I knew that it was part of something bigger than myself.
And when it comes to Streetwise opera, Anna, like Marigold, was more interested in talking about the importance of the process, despite the quality and profile of the outcome.
I think the most powerful thing about Streetwise opera is that when you walk into the room, one of their sessions with their amazing workshop leaders who just devote so much energy and love to what they do, and the whole organisation's like that too. When you walk into that room, you leave a lot at the door. You just say, I'm going to pick that up later, and I'm just going to be in this room, and I'm going to be with these people, and I'm going to sing, and I'm going to just love music and have fun as well. So it's not just about saying, oh, this is a charity project to help homeless people. It's not like that. It's not patronising. It's not kind of top down. It's saying, actually, we're all people. We're all in a room together and we can all connect. And let's leave all those labels and those hats that we're made to wear. Let's leave them outside and take them off and just be people. So I used to leave my anxieties and concerns and self-consciousness at the door and just say, I'm going to throw myself into this session. I'm going to have fun and let go. And oh my goodness, I enjoyed it so much. And I think I made something that I was really proud of with them because of that. And their words really helped me make music as well. And that helped me realise that collaboration was going to be fundamental to who I am, and it still is.
Here is an example of another of Anna's collaborations, this time with the vocalist Helen Lacey. This is an unaccompanied folk-inspired song with music and text by Anna, which clearly allows considerable space for Helen to pace and characterise the music. This is from their self-released single, produced by Chris Dawson.
There's a shoreline named Beauty, there's a shoreline named Peace, and shores I stand, her sands are not these. And I would that this gale, my sweet Scottish breeze, winds of Iona blow over the seas. Winds of Iona carry her over the mists and the seas. Winds of Iona carry her over, oh, carry my lover from Scotland to me. She's a daughter and Nabby, a son a Danny, and hundreds of sisters and brothers has she. But here in my home with my dear family, my lover is lacking, she's over the sea. Winds of Iona carry her home, carry her over the mists and the seas. Winds of Iona carry her over, oh, carry my lover from Scotland to me. My love is an island, in England am I. I'll go to Iona soon after I die. Iona not, but she possesses me, I. Oh, Iona of Scotland, on God's hand you lie. Winds of Iona carry her home, carry her over the mists and the seas. Winds of Iona carry her over, oh, carry my lover from Scotland to me.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Marlowe, and I'm a composer based in Yorkshire. I graduated from the RNCM in 2019 from the Master's course. I worked with Streetwise Opera throughout spring and summer last year as lead composer on a project called Protest Music. This was a modern response to the bicentennial of the Peterloo protests. Streetwise opera, on its surface, is a chorus, but it's so much more than that. Streetwise often uses the term streetwise family when describing the group, and it really is that. It's such a supportive, safe place where people who might not have had access to the opportunities afforded to others can develop personally and professionally within a supportive group, all tied together by music. It's a testament to the power of your chosen family and the way the arts can bring people together to effect positive change on an individual basis. I think one of my fondest memories of working with the Streetwise chorus was the rehearsal where we were deciding movement to go with one of the pieces written for protest music, and this was a piece that the chorus members had really gelled with. I remember a small argument broke out between the members about how they wanted to move across the stage, and I was struck about how passionately they connected with the subject matter and the music. I'd not really had that oh wow moment before of realising people had really connected so passionately with something I'd written, and I think just that feeling is a moment I'll carry with me forever. It's not hyperbole to say that working with Streetwise has changed my artistic practice. It gave me a deeper understanding of how I could communicate music and compose in a way that isn't just exclusive to those people who've been lucky enough to have a formal musical education. And on a more abstract level, the sheer passion of the chorus members has given me a renewed belief in the way that music can affect political and social change. It's obvious the positive impact that Streetwise has had on the participants' lives, and I count myself as lucky to have been able to share a part of that experience with them.
She
You've been listening to Charlotte Marlowe and her new work with writer Caroline Hardacre, Medusa, performed by soprano Helena Mathiasson and violinist Cleo Annadale. The song has now become part of a 30-minute cycle called Folk Songs. Like Anna, Charlotte has been inspired by the immediacy, decoration and vernacular transparency of folk song. However, this has clearly been explored in a very different direction. We're going to end our broadcast this afternoon with a movement from Gustav Holst's best-known work, The Planets. Although the piece was not premiered in its entirety until 1920, the first 5 movements were first heard in September 1918, in the final months of the First World War and during the Spanish flu pandemic. Although with our contemporary medical knowledge we would not see, or want to see, live orchestral premieres during the current crisis, and thanks to our current communication technology and knowledge, it's easier to share new work in isolation, I found it comforting to think about the extraordinary range of musical artworks made during the horrors of Spanish flu, and that, of course, this creativity endures. Holst initially wrote the first 6 movements of piano duet and the final movement for organ, and we're now going to hear the second movement, Venus, in its keyboard version. This recording is taken from a concert at the RNCM last June, in which different students joined concert pianist and college's international chair in piano, Kathryn Stott, for each movement. Here Kathryn is joined by Justine Gormley in Gustav Holst's Venus from the Planets.